With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
Escape Cancelo. Oh, it's brilliant from Mo Salah. And still, Salah.
It's Game Week 31, and you know what that means. It's time for another brand new episode of A Tad Predictable. They're coming thick and fast this week. We know we have the games on the weekend. We've got midweek action this week, and then obviously there are games on the weekend as well. But let's deal with the games for this midweek batch of games. Obviously, as I said, Game Week 31. I am joined by the reigning, defending, Bank It or Burn It champion, Jake Jackman. Jake, you currently sit bottom of the Bank It or Burn It score leaderboard at the moment with 13 out of 25. Guy Drinker obviously leads it after the first round. He got 17 out of 25. I know you were quite cocky with your first effort. Is it time to get a bit serious? Are you getting worried?
No, I'm not getting worried. still lots of time.
There's barely any game weeks left. How many chances do you think you're going to get?
I don't know. As many as it takes. Loads of time.
Look, well, we'll see if the Wounded King can make a comeback with this round of Bank It or Burn It. Obviously, as we said, defending champion. We haven't had a back-to-back champion yet on A Tad Predictable, so that could be quite cool if you can accomplish that. But before we get to those fixtures, there's obviously a whole host of Premier League games to talk about this coming midweek. Maybe it will tie into the first game that we're going to be speaking about. But we were discussing before, obviously, we started recording about sort of the how crazy, contrasting, and hypocritical some of the takes on Twitter have become of late. I mean, Eddie Howe got, I was saying, fired and then rehired and then should have been knighted. Based on some of the Twitter accounts that I was seeing tweeting during that Newcastle game this past weekend. We've seen similar things with Sean Dyche, obviously, at Everton. They were doing okay in that game, and then obviously, unfortunately, that own goal. Are you sensing Twitter or social media is becoming more hot takey, or is that just my perception?
You always get that. I think it's all like an echo chamber. You can find anything you want, and it's the people that are complaining tend to be the ones that you see more often. So yeah, I think that's just the nature of the platform. I think you'd probably get quite a different reaction as the game is going on if you're in the stadium. But yeah, there we go. I think this is the nature of Twitter. It's just there for people to rant, basically.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And yeah, as I said, it's been quite a whirlwind for teams this weekend. Was this one of the most exciting weekends in terms of twists and turns in games? I've not experienced as many fun weekends in recent memory. At least, certainly not any more fun than this one, from my opinion.
Yeah, it was quite good. Yeah, there was a lot going on this weekend. Yeah, it was quite a good weekend. I think it sort of kicked off well with that Newcastle West Ham game. That was really, really good. It sort of set the bar high. And yeah, obviously Liverpool came from behind, so that's another one. Manchester United game ended quite dramatically, even if it wasn't the best game overall. So yeah, it was a lot of twists and turns this weekend.
And obviously ended with the dullest title decider game I've seen in a good while. I guess that's how these things swing and roundabouts. Exciting rest of the weekend, and then ends off with what I thought was not as exciting a game as we were hoping to have. But let's move on to the midweek fixtures, Jake. And I wanted to talk about that Eddie Howe, the split opinions that seem to be on Twitter, as you mentioned, maybe not necessarily at the ground, but Newcastle kick us off this week, certainly in terms of our schedule. They will be entertaining Everton. What did you make of that performance from Newcastle this past weekend? How do you think they handle an Everton side who, if there's ever a team where the ball is just not bouncing in their favour at the moment, surely it has to be Everton.
Yeah, I don't think there was a lot to learn from Newcastle's performance against West Ham. It's been the same in a lot of games this year. Obviously, there's 4-4 against Luton, 3-3 against Bournemouth. It's happened quite often at home where there's been lots of goals. So it's kind of just more of the same. Just this time we got the win. But yeah, I just don't think Newcastle are going to find the answers to their problems this season. I think it's going to be a lot more of what we saw on Saturday. And obviously the injuries, they never get better. People keep going off. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think it's probably going to be quite a chaotic game, this one. It's going to be interesting though, because Newcastle keep conceding chances and goals, but they keep scoring them, whereas Everton just don't really seem to score or concede many. So it's kind of like a clash. It'd be interesting to see which one comes out on top. But I think I'd rather be Everton and coming up against a team that's conceding a lot than I would be Newcastle, who are a team that are conceding a lot, and coming up against a team that don't score many. I think it's the conceding bit is a bigger problem. So yeah, I'm not sure how to call this one. Newcastle has got a lot of players missing. Anthony Gordon's going to be suspended. So that's a little bit annoying. So yeah, I'm not sure. I think Everton's form has been pretty bad for a while though. So I think I'll give Newcastle the edge just about. But yeah, I think there'll be more goals in this one. I think I might go for a 4-2 to Newcastle. I think that's just the nature of the beast in Newcastle games. Remember, there's just loads of goals. So yeah, I'll just back that again.
4-2. That would make another exciting games at St. James's Park. It seems to be one of those stadiums that pulls out really exciting games. For me, I don't know, maybe you can shed more light on this, but are there any concerns with what is going to be, I'm assuming, a makeshift back four? You've mentioned the injuries. It's a Newcastle side that's not being allowed to settle at any point this season. I mean, it started with the Tonali ban, where he's obviously playing well, starting the season, I thought started well, and we can certainly see they're missing him in midfield. Joe Linton, who's had a revived career under Eddie Howe, he's not been available. We saw the plethora of injuries that popped up during that game against West Ham. I don't know how Eddie Howe is able to get a starting 11 for this game. That might be where Everton would be looking to capitalize, to say, look, we will have at least a settled side. Everyone will know what's going on. But I just struggle to see any light at the end of the tunnel for Everton at the moment. I think Newcastle will struggle in this one, but I still think they'll get over the line. So I've gone way on the other side. You've gone 4-2. I've gone 1-0 to Newcastle. I just think it might take some time for Newcastle's team to settle into some sort of rhythm and groove. with the amount of changes that are going to happen in this game, and then also with how well disciplined and defensively sound Everton seem to be, despite being quite unlucky at times. I think it might be a difficult game, but Newcastle still see it through.
Yeah, maybe. I just think there's going to be so many goals in every Newcastle match for the rest of the season. So I can't oppose that viewpoint in this one. I think there'll be goals, but yeah, I think we'll win.
I think the Newcastle win is definitely there for them. Let's move on to Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. I mean, for Nottingham Forest, obviously a great goal by Wood on the weekend, but I'm waiting for that spark from them that is not seeming to come. I don't know if you feel the same way. They're sitting in 17th place at the moment. We know there's some sort of decision that's going to happen regarding them with their financial issues, if we can call it that they're facing. It seems like they're going down for me, Jake, if they get some sort of points deduction along with the form that they're showing at the moment, which is weird because I thought they were one of the teams that were praised for the amount of business that they did do and trying to build a team that was capable of staying in the Premier League. It's just not seemed to work out for them this season as much as it did for them last season. And then obviously Fulham, I mean, what more can we say about them? They are obviously the tad predictable team of the season. We thought they were in for a shock defeat against Sheffield United last time out, but they somehow drug out a draw out of that game, Jake. They look impressive. Muniz looks good. Fulham seem to always be in with a chance in games at the moment, especially with the way he's playing.
Yeah, I think Fulham have been good this year. I just think they're a little bit inconsistent. I think they're better off playing the better teams. I think their better performances have come against teams in the top half of the table. We obviously saw Sheffield United almost beat them at the weekend, so I think that's something to sort of consider with this one. Nottingham Forest at home, at some point it's got to turn. I think if they don't win this one, then I think Nuno might face a lot of pressure. I really wouldn't be surprised to see another managerial change there before the end of the season. It's an interesting game. I definitely see both teams scoring. I think that seems to be a trend in both their matches. But I think I'm going to lean just towards Nottingham Forest. I think they're going to find a way to win. I think Fulham are much more likely to beat Newcastle next weekend than they are to beat Nottingham Forest in this game. So yeah, I think I'm going to tip Fulham, Nottingham Forest to win. I think they've got just enough, and I think it's going to be an important 3 points to sort of try and get them away from the sort of relegation zone. I think it's a massive game for them. So yeah, I think I'm going to tip them. I think I'm going to go 2-1 to Nottingham Forest. I think they'll just about get it done.
And that will be massive for them because at the moment they don't know what their punishment is going to be. So they probably just need to, they need to pick up points anyway. But with that impending points deduction, let's say maybe it ends up being 4 points or if we say 6 points, maybe something similar to what happened with Everton. Or Nottingham Forest have been deducted the 4 points, sorry. There isn't going to be, I hope, an increase to that 4 points, but they have appealed the decision, Jake. Do you see that decision getting reversed in any way? Maybe a reduction from the 4 points, and that would move them above Everton if it goes down by more than 3 points in terms of dropping that 4 point deduction.
I don't know. It's difficult to call. I think it's probably unlikely they'll get any points back, but yeah, you never know. I think that they got quite a nice punishment anyway with the 4 points. I think that'll probably hold.
Yeah, it seems like 4 points was more on the generous side, especially from my perspective. I prefer those type of punishments if it is something where the rules have been broken and you agree to them beforehand, to be a bit more of a deterrent for other teams. I don't think 4 points is a deterrent for other teams. In my opinion, it's not a harsh enough sentence for that. But for this week, a win here, it doesn't, I don't think, drag Fulham into any sort of relegation form. They're on 39 points. I think they're well safe. They're fine. they look forward to next season, what they can do there. But for Nottingham Forest, that would be a huge win. I don't know if I'm feeling like all the goals have gone on during the week. I mean, during the weekend, and we're not going to see too many during the week. And I guess we'll see with the rest of my score predictions. But for this one, I've gone 1-1. I'm still not confident enough to give Nottingham Forest a win. I can't remember the last time they did win. I do think they will make it difficult for Fulham. You mentioned Fulham's preference to playing against the bigger teams and setting up in a way where they're less likely to have the ball and sort of can run into the spaces left in behind, especially by some of those attacking fullbacks that we have from the bigger teams in the Premier League this season. I think it will be a bit closer. They will find it a bit tougher to go through Nottingham Forest, who will have maybe a more solid defensive base. And I've gone 1-1. I think it's a draw. I don't think it's enough for Nottingham Forest. As you mentioned, they need to stop picking up the wins, but I guess they'll take the point and try and improve elsewhere. Let's move on to Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace. Obviously, Crystal Palace, from their perspective, they had that draw against the aforementioned Nottingham Forest. Good goal for Mateta. He gets on the scoreline again. He seems to be doing just enough at the moment for them, maybe. But then coming up against a Bournemouth side who I think they were fortunate to get the win against Everton. Obviously, as I said, it's the own goal, the Seamus Coleman own goal, which just shows the form and the luck that Everton have at the moment. Bournemouth are weird to me, Jake. They seem like they need to almost be punched in the nose before they start going in games. And I don't think you can do that too often in the Premier League without facing some sort of punishment. In terms of scoreline prediction for this one, I'm going to go in true Bournemouth fashion. It's going to start with a 1-0 Crystal Palace, but then Bournemouth are going to end up winning it 2-1.
Yeah, I've got this one down as 1-1 draw. I just think both teams are not that consistent. I think Crystal Palace obviously got a good result at the weekend, but I think they're still sort of adapting under the new manager. I think that Bournemouth are a good team. They always sort of compete. They're a little bit inconsistent and sometimes do fall behind and sort of fall into slippy situations. But I think this one's I just think they're very well matched. I think they're both similar abilities, and I just think neither are going to go down. Neither are going to move up the table much. I just think it just screams to me as a nice 1-1 draw. I think I'll go for that one.
1-1. Yeah, look, I think Crystal Palace they keep doing this yo-yo thing of trying to bring in an innovative manager. It doesn't quite work out, or it seems to be working out and then doesn't quite work out, and then they go back to a Roy Hodgson or someone like that just to stabilize things enough to be safe for the season, then try again in a couple of seasons to go a bit adventurous. But yeah, as you said, another season in the Premier League. We'll see if they keep the manager or if they're feeling frisky and try and do something else in the summer. But certainly one of those teams that will be hoping to improve heading into next season. Let's move on to Burnley versus Wolves. Jake, I didn't have Burnley 10 men going and doing what they did against Chelsea on the bingo card. More so with Vincent Kompany also being sent off, not being able to manage the team from the touchline. I guess maybe that game has a lot more to do with Chelsea than necessarily Burnley, but I'm open to hear your thoughts on how Burnley handled the game against 10 men. I mean, playing with 10 men away to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. They will be obviously playing a wounded Wolves side who lost quite, I thought, decisively against Aston Villa. Obviously, for Aston Villa's sake, they would have been happy with the fact that Wolves didn't have many of their attacking firepower that they would prefer to have starting, despite obviously congratulations to the young debutant who started his first game. But I think Wolves would have preferred to have some of the more senior and well-known players like Pedro Neto up front for them. And until those players come back, is it going to be a struggle for Wolves? And does that leave the door open for Burnley here?
Yeah, I think this is a massive chance for Burnley. I think that not many people are going to expect them to sort of do much for the rest of the season, but they're still well in touch, especially with points deductions at play. They've got a good fixture run. It's only 4 points, so yeah, they're well in the game, I think. So yeah, I thought Burnley were good against Chelsea. They were they had 18 shots in the game, which is quite impressive. 10 men. They conceded a lot as well, but that's to be expected from a team that is near the bottom of the table. But yeah, they stuck at it well. It would have been easy to sort of fold in that situation. But yeah, they're only 4 points from safety now. This is a massive game. It's a winnable game. I think Wolves were okay at Villa. I thought they probably deserved a goal. But you could just tell maybe they're missing one player too many. They're missing Neto, Cunha. They've got so many of their good players sort of out, which is a massive blow for them. And yeah, I think this is a massive opportunity for Burnley. I think if they're serious about trying to at least put up a fight and try and put themselves in the fight to stay up, I think that they need to win this one. And I think I'm going to tip them to win it. I think I'm going to go for a 1-0 Burnley win. I think Wolves are just missing one attacking player too many, and I think Burnley have just showed a bit of improvement, a bit of fighting spirit recently. So yeah, I think I'm going to tip them to win 1-0 to Burnley, and yeah, really kickstart their survival hopes.
I'm going to join you on that bandwagon because I've got 1-0 here to Burnley. Look, we talk about, and it's especially pundits on TV like to talk about how everyone plays everyone twice. So that's what makes the Premier League so equal and fair, or whatever, or any league form equal and fair. I've always been on that horse, or that high horse that says, well, yes, you play everyone twice a week, Jake, but it depends when you play them. So playing Wolves now versus playing Wolves a couple of weeks back is a different prospect considering the amount of injuries they have. And if I'm Burnley, you have to capitalize on this. Maybe a couple of weeks back, everyone's probably looking at this game and already giving the points to Wolves. Not so much here. Burnley, yes, they haven't necessarily won all their last 3 games. They got 1 win and 2 draws in those games. But they've been in those games. They've put up a fight. They've looked competitive. Could have probably won another one of those games if you look at the performance and the way those games went. I think they've got to capitalize on this, if you can call it momentum, that they have at the moment. As you say, if you want to stay in the Premier League, when you've got something good, when you've got some sort of form or confidence or momentum, you've got to ride that wave and pick up as many points as you can during that spell, because we know with how competitive the Premier League is, it's hard to maintain, these good spells, especially for a team that's struggling near the bottom of the table. So yeah, I think Wolves will be unfortunate in that they'll be facing a more confident Burnley side who know they have to almost win this game if they are to stay in that race to stay out of the relegation zone and not get relegated this season. But let's move on to a London derby. West Ham, they will be intimidating Tottenham Hotspurs. It wasn't. I guess you can speak more on the West Ham game, but the first half, I thought they played okay. I still thought Newcastle were playing better. Obviously, the amount of injuries to Newcastle unstabilized things. We saw a goal come straight after Newcastle had to sort of rejig their back line, maybe some communication issues there of who should be higher up or who should be dropping, which I think is understandable when switches like that happen. But you find yourself 3-1 up in a game that Newcastle are competitive. Newcastle are the home team, so they're going to have a spell at some point where they bring the crowd back into it, or the crowd brings them back into it. You have to take that into account when you're playing away from home, that's going to happen. He makes a couple of subs, one of them Calvin Phillips. West Ham fans, from my perspective, and from the ones that I spoke to, said this summarized David Moyes. You're 3-1 up. Instead of controlling the game and trying to see, be more positive in how you control the game, he tends to be more negative in how he wants to control the game, which is sort of bring on more defensive players, sit back and just try and soak up all the pressure and hope that we get to the 90th minute.
Yeah, I think they got into a pretty good situation at Newcastle. They probably should have won the game. They're the way the game was playing, their best chance of continuing with that trend was to keep attacking, because we have so many spaces in our defence that they'd have had more chances. But yeah, the Phillips for Antonio sort of killed that game, gave Newcastle the momentum, and then obviously once we got one goal back, it did feel like it was a inevitable sort of wave that was happening, even outside of the 3 goals, the 2 Harvey Barnes goals. There was a few other chances that Newcastle had, so there was plenty of chances. So yeah, they'll probably be disappointed with that one. But yeah, in attack they look really good. I think Paqueta is playing some of the best football he's played in England. Jared Bowen is obviously so consistent. Kudos is really good. So yeah, I think they really need to try and be a bit more attack minded. I think Tottenham's a good game for them, because Tottenham, like Newcastle, will leave gaps, and I don't think Tottenham have been that great over the last couple of months. They've been picked up a few wins here and there, but they've been very inconsistent. They sort of had to rely on a late goal to beat Luton at the weekend. Maddison, by all accounts, didn't play that great. I think they've got a few issues that they need to deal with. I think I'm going to tip West Ham to win this one. They always seem to turn up against Tottenham. It's a massive game for them. They're one of West Ham's biggest rivals. They probably see Tottenham in the same way that Arsenal, that Tottenham see Arsenal. I don't think Tottenham have quite the same opinions on West Ham, but it's obviously a heated rival, and I think that West Ham will be up for it. I think the way they lost, they'll go out there with a point to prove. So yeah, I think that I think I'm going to tip the West Ham win. I'm going to go 3-2. I think there's going to be a lot of goals in this one, but yeah, I think West Ham are just going to edge it. I'm going to give them the win.
It should be an interesting game, because I think we all know how it's going to play out. West Ham are going to sit back, try and counter-attack with Antonio and Bowen and Kudus, etc., while Spurs try and just go all-out attack with a really high defensive line. So it should make for an exciting game, I think. I initially was leaning, when I looked at this game, leaning at a 2-2 draw, because of I do think it will be interesting to see if Mickey van der Ven does start in this game. If I was Spurs, I'll be kind of cautious not to start him, because I can just imagine the amount of sprints he's going to be asked to do in this game, considering the matchup of styles and how West Ham play. Do you really want a player that's just come back from one of his, I think he's had 4 hamstring injuries in the last 3 years. Do you really want him to be coming back into this game where he's going to have to do a lot of sprinting? I don't know. That's one for Big Ange to decide on. But anyway, my only concern for West Ham is, even if they do take the lead, Moyes doesn't seem to change in his approach of sitting back and getting deeper and getting deeper and getting deeper. And if there's one thing we know from Tottenham, it's that they're going to keep going and keep going and keep going. And Big Ange isn't afraid to even sacrifice some defensive stability to bring on more attacking players to go and get that goal. So yeah, I've gone 2-1 to Spurs, just because I don't know if West Ham are going to be able to handle their onslaught.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah, it's a difficult game to call. I think West Ham always turn up against Tottenham. It's just one of those games they always do well in, and yeah, that historic success in the fixtures makes me give the edge this weekend, this week even.
That makes sense. Makes perfect sense. What also makes perfect sense, Jake, is joining up with our presenting sponsors, Liberty Shield. They are a VPN provider. You guys can check out their services at libertyshield.com. If you guys use the coupon code EPL25, you'll be able to save 25% off of your router or the software VPN. Guys, it's a VPN service that's really easy to install, easy to use, and has a whole host of features. It can be used on multiple devices. That's whether you're traveling and you don't want to get locked out of your bank account, or if you want to be safe whilst using public Wi-Fi. If you want to unlock geolock content, or you just want to protect your online data, then Liberty Shield is definitely for you. I use it obviously just to unlock content. Watching March Madness in the US at the moment has been a breeze with Liberty Shield. I'm putting myself in different places in and around the world to make sure that I'm able to unlock content right here from my home in the UK. You guys can use it for stuff like Netflix shows or unlocking geolocked films. We know not all EPL games are shown on TV here in the UK, and Liberty Shield is a great way to still watch every single game guaranteed. Jake, we're going to take a quick break here, and then we're going to let you have your second go at Bank It or Burn It. We'll be right back after this short break.
I'm Alex Rodriguez.
And I'm Jason Kelly.
From Bloomberg, this is The Deal. Each week, you'll hear us in conversation with business icons.
This show will explore deal-making across sports, media, and entertainment.
That is a harsh lesson in business.
Sports is not as simple as bringing a bunch of big names together.
I didn't want to do another stomp you out speech.
It opened up so many more doors.
The show is called The Deal.
Listen to The Deal.
Listen to The Deal on Spotify.
All right, we are back. Jake, are you ready to redeem yourself? I know the title of this podcast is Wounded King. Do you feel like a wounded king? You seem to not feel under any pressure, but time seems to be running out for you to defend your title.
Well, last time I said it was a bit of a warm-up. I sort of playing to the crowd. So yeah, this is when the business gets serious. I saw the comeback from Newcastle. It's given me the motivation to launch my assault this year.
All right, let's hope for your sake that Newcastle comeback rubs off on you. And maybe this is a good omen, because the first game that you're going to be doing is Newcastle versus Everton. The five questions this week are total passes over 800, over 4 offsides, under 30 clearances, outside the box goal, and fist pump goal celebration. Newcastle versus Everton, as I said, your first fixture, and your time starts now. Total passes over 800.
Burn it.
Over 4 offsides.
Bank it.
Under 30 clearances.
Burn it.
Outside the box goal.
Bank it.
Fist pump goal celebration.
Bank it.
All right, okay. You mixed it up there. We'll be interested to see whether or not that plays well for you. All right, let's get the clock going again. Nottingham Forest versus Fulham. Your time starts now. Total passes over 800.
Burn it.
Over 8 before offsides.
Burn it.
Under 30 clearances.
Bank it.
Outside the box goal.
Burn it.
Fist bump goal celebration.
Burn it.
Burn it at the end. Oh my word. I was very nervous for you there because of the mistake I did. I thought you were going to run out of time, but it worked out. I don't want to be blamed again for Jake not getting all 25 questions on the board. Let's move on to Bournemouth versus Crystal Palace. Your time starts now. Total passes over 800.
Burn it.
Over 4 offsides.
Burn it.
Under 30 clearances.
Bank it.
Outside the box goal.
Burn it.
Fist bump goal celebration.
Bank it.
Bank it to end it off. All right. 2 more to go. Burnley versus Wolves. A game that you've obviously predicted 1-0 to Burnley there. Your time starts now. Total passes over 800.
Bank it.
Over 4 offsides.
Bank it.
Under 30 clearances.
Bank it.
Outside the box goal.
Burn it.
Fist bump goal celebration.
Burn it.
Burn it to end it off. All right, Jake, you got 1 more. Hopefully, for your sake, this is the one that will clinch another title for you. West Ham versus Spurs. The derby that you've predicted to have lots of goals in it. Your time starts now. Total passes over 800.
Bank it.
Over 4 offsides.
Bank it.
Under 30 clearances.
Burn it.
Outside the box goal.
Bank it.
Fist bump goal celebration.
Bank it.
Awesome stuff. Bank it to end it off. Jake, good luck. I wish you luck in this round and see whether or not you can put up a score that is a little bit better than 13 out of 25. Jake, you got to understand, it's a bit embarrassing for us as well as a podcast if our champion is sitting at the bottom. It's not a good look.
Well, maybe the fixtures I was given last time, maybe they just didn't go the way they were supposed to go. Wow. Sometimes, I'll blame anything but me.
To be fair, Chelsea fans know all about that. Fixtures not going the way they're supposed to go, but we'll discuss them as the last fixture of this week, let's go on to another London team. It's Arsenal. They will be hosting Luton. Jake, it seemed like there was an emphasis from the pundits at Sky to sort of applaud Arsenal for the way they played against Man City and almost describe it as an effort that we've not seen from any other team. I think Gary Neville was saying he's not seen another team do this to Man City. And I'm sitting there thinking, didn't Aston Villa, just limit them to 2 shots on target? Like, what are we talking about? We've seen teams do this to Man City before. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a hater, but I don't see what was so different about this Arsenal performance. I don't see what was so special about this Arsenal performance. More so considering Arsenal pretty much had their full strength squad, bar Timbers, who obviously is coming back from that long-term injury. Whereas Man City had a lot of injuries in this game. What did you make of that Arsenal performance? Do you think it's now just a matter of going and winning all the rest of their games? They've got probably the toughest fixtures of the 3 title contenders. But a game against Luton, we know Luton have made it tough for big teams, but surely Arsenal at home, if you want to win a league title, this is a game you have to go and win, and maybe even emphatically.
Yeah, I think it was a good performance from Arsenal. It's not easy to restrict City to that many chances. And I think the difference from the Aston Villa game and maybe others is that this was at the Etihad, where City have been so good. Like their form at the Etihad, they're so good. I think it's the first time they haven't scored in the Etihad in, I think it's over a year. It was quite a long time. So yeah, it was. They did really shut City down. They didn't create anything really of note. I did think the last 20 minutes that City started to get a bit more space, but Arsenal did defend well. I thought Gabriel and Salah were both incredible. And Arsenal, I think, are the best defensive team in the league. I think it's difficult to argue with that at this point. So yeah, it was a good performance. It wasn't great to watch for the neutral. I think that a lot of Arsenal's games against the better teams have been a little bit dull. I think it's kind of the way Arteta wants it. Whereas City, when they go up against Liverpool or they play Tottenham, they often do bring up entertaining games. Arsenal just don't really. So yeah, they got the good result. I think they'd have been happy with the point at the start of the day. So you can't really remember that they were very good, and they got the point they wanted, and now they'll be hoping that they can get the result they need, get the results they need for the rest of the season. So yeah, I think it was a good performance, and yeah, I think they'll win this weekend too. I think they'll have too much for Luton. I think I'm going to go through a 3-0 win to Arsenal. I think it's going to be quite convincing. So yeah, 3-0 to Arsenal this one. I think Luton did okay at Tottenham, but I think Arsenal are just another level. And I think that, yeah, at home, that they'll get the job done quite easily.
I think what we've seen as well with Luton is obviously coming from the Championship, there are a whole host of games that you have to play there. So you do also have to play midweek games. But from the mental side of things, Premier League games, the level of concentration, having played against such a high-intensity team in Tottenham on the weekend, then having to play on that massive pitch at the Emirates, I think it's going to be a long day for Luton in this one. I've also gone 3-0. I'm trying to convince myself to go 3-1. But as you said, Arsenal have just been really solid defensively this season, and I'm struggling to see Luton getting in a goal here, and I think it would be more than just wishful thinking to add that 3-1. I think I'll join you on the 3-0. I tried to convince myself 3-1, but yeah, Arsenal have just been so good defensively, and I think Luton might find it a bit difficult to turn around so quickly. And I said against two teams that play really good football, and it's not necessarily the game that Luton need to win to stay up in the league. There will be other fixtures heading forward. Obviously, for their sake, they would like a point in this one. But you look at their next couple of fixtures, they've got Bournemouth coming up on the weekend, which is probably a bigger game than the Arsenal game, considering where Bournemouth are on the table. So is there one eye on that game? Maybe use this Arsenal game as sort of like a free hit, if you can even call it that, this late into the season. And then after that, they've got Man City at the Etihad, which, as you said, has been quite a fortress. So not a lot of games where they can pick up points at this present point in time. But after that, they've got Brentford, who have been struggling. And then after Brentford, they've got Wolves. Maybe Wolves players will be back by then. If not, that's an opportunity to pick up points. Then Everton, that's going to be a big game. Both teams struggling this season in terms of league table position. West Ham, you never know which West Ham turns up, will be their fixture in 37, and then they end the season off against Fulham, obviously the team of ATP. So we all know that's going to be a difficult game for them. But in terms of this Arsenal game, unfortunately for them, I don't see Arsenal slipping up here. I think it's going to be quite a professional performance from Arsenal. As I've said, Arsenal pretty much have a fully fit squad. I know Saka is obviously the glaring question mark in terms of fitness levels, but that's been the case the whole season. In my opinion, he's playing injured the whole season because they can't afford to lose him this season, and it might turn out that he's going to need to have some sort of recovery or God forbid a surgery at some point in time. But with Euros coming up soon as well, I don't even know if he's going to have a chance to do that this season. Maybe the next off season it will be something that he would look into. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be a tough afternoon for Luton, and for their sake, hopefully they can pick up points in some of the other games that are coming up, and maybe that might be enough for them. Let's move on to Brentford versus Brighton. Brentford, a team that can't shake that no-win sort of hoodoo that's over them at the moment. You look at that Man United game, the plethora of chances they had, Jake. How did they not win that game? And actually, they almost lost the game and ended up with a result where they were happy for a draw in a game that they probably would have been disappointed with the draw if it wasn't for those chaotic last couple of minutes.
Yeah, I think Brentford were good. They created so many chances. They really should have won the game. Tony, I think he had 9 or 10 shots in the game. He had so many shots, and it wasn't quite firing. And Buemo, when he came on, looked good. I think getting him back in the team along will be massive. Yeah, they were unlucky not to win, but yeah, when Mason Mount scored, I think they would have been happy to get that late equaliser that they got. So yeah, they do seem to be struggling, though. It does seem to be a struggle for Brentford. They're just not quite getting the rub of the green this year. This could be a tough game. Brighton, I thought they did okay at Liverpool to start with, but eventually Liverpool's quality just sort of allowed them to dominate the game. But they're a lot more stubborn than they normally are. They normally struggle to... They concede so many chances, but I did think that they stuck in the game and did okay. I think going out of Europe is probably going to hurt them. And they haven't quite found the form they had last year, which is understandable. There's only so many times you can keep selling your best players and regenerating. I think they've struggled in that midfield area. But it's going to be a really, really interesting game. I think I'm going to tip Brentford to win. I think they played so well the other day and they didn't win. I think that they will take confidence in that, and Buemo coming back in is going to be big. So I think I want to go 2-1 to Brentford. I think that I've just got a feeling. About this one. Brighton just haven't gone for them this year. De Zerbi keeps talking about his contract, which isn't going to help matters. So yeah, I think I'm going to tip Brentford 2-1 and Tony to be on the score sheet.
Oh, an extra bonus there from Jake with who the scorer is going to be. Thank you for that. I always appreciate that. For me, I think Brighton have been inconsistent so far, for a lot of this season, but especially in 2024. I think European football has been a factor there as well. But we've seen them not be able to put 2 wins back to back in quite a while. And by that logic, having lost the game against Liverpool, I'm predicting they're going to go and win this game against Brentford. I think it's going to be low-key a really fun game. We saw the performance that Brentford put up against Man United, a game, as we're saying, that they should have won and would be disappointed. Mixed feelings about ending up with a draw there, but probably as a whole, they probably should have won that game and will be disappointed by not being able to see out Man United in that one. Brighton, I think, had an okay performance against Liverpool, all things considered. I agree with you that Liverpool sort of grew into the game, and it's one of those things where Brighton almost scored too early. It gave Liverpool plenty of time to settle into their rhythm and go and try and go and win the game and try and get to the top of the Premier League table. But yeah, for Brighton, I think I'm okay with how they're playing at the moment. I think I'm cautious to try and predict wins for the likes of Brentford and Everton until they show me that they can do it. I'd rather be a week late on them in terms of giving them the nod over teams at the moment, because sometimes it happens where you just can't seem to buy a win. And it seems to be the case for them. The likes of Nottingham Forest are in that camp at the moment. So yeah, I think Brighton go and win, and they continue this Jekyll and Hyde season of winning and then not winning, winning and then not winning, winning and then not winning in their recent fixtures. Let's move on to Manchester City. They will be entertaining Aston Villa. Jake, is this a tougher game than maybe City would have been expecting or not? Because Aston Villa, I don't know, it feels like they've not been hitting the ground running recently, but they're still managing to win games. I mean, you saw that the 2-0 win against Wolves, obviously great win for them, but again, it was a Wolves side that was depleted. They had that disappointing draw against West Ham, and also the dismantling that happened to them against Tottenham in that massive game in the race for Champions League football. I'm weirdly not convinced by Aston Villa at the moment, and that's probably not what Man City's title contenders would have wanted to hear. When you look at the fixtures on paper, you look at Arsenal playing Luton, looking at Liverpool playing Sheffield United, those two are probably more bullish about going and winning those games, if you're looking at the games objectively. Then you see Man City, Aston Villa, and you're thinking, right, Aston Villa could give City some problems here, but I've not seen as good an Aston Villa in recent weeks as we saw maybe earlier in the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think they've been struggling recently. I do think that. I think John McGinn being out is a massive blow for this game. He's so combative in the middle of the park. I think he's going to be a massive miss. And yeah, City, I think to drop points once at home is possible. I can't see them dropping points again. I think it's going to be one game too many for Aston Villa. I think that they really didn't do that well at the weekend. I wasn't that impressed with their performance. I thought Wolves were quite unlucky not to at least get on the score sheet. So yeah, I think City will have more than enough this weekend, and they should get the 3 points this week. Even they should get the 3 points. They'll also have a point to prove after sort of being so outclassed at Villa Park. And yeah, I think they'll really bounce back in this game and get the win. I think it could be quite convincing too. I think I'm going to go 4-0. We've seen with Villa before this season, back at Anfield, at St James's Park early in the season, they can sometimes lose quite convincingly, and I think that's going to happen this week. So yeah, I think I'm going to go 4-0 to City. I think it could be a real wake up call for Aston Villa. Not that they really need to be woken up. I just think it's going to be one game too many, and yeah, I'm going to go 4-0 to City, for them to really sort of lay their marker out for the title.
Yeah, I've gone 3-1 to City. I still think some of the defensive players coming back for them may be the pace of the Baileys, the Diabys, Watkins could cause them enough problems to get a goal in there, but I still think it will be a dominant and convincing win for Man City. Jake, do you think games like this, yes, it's a win, but it's a win against, on paper, a team that's sitting fourth currently on the league table? Does that, I'd imagine if I'm a manager, certainly, I'd be emphasizing that fact. If we go and win against Aston Villa, it's not the Aston Villa that many other teams have faced previously in the season, but I would still be saying, look, team, we just beat a team that is fourth on the table. Let's go and dominate the rest of our games. Is this one of those games that you can use as a momentum builder? We know City come on strong towards the end of the season, but they've got Champions League big games coming up soon. They're going to need all the motivation and energy that they can muster. They need to roll back that vintage, what is becoming vintage City at the moment, of sort of being a freight train towards the end of the season and just steamrolling teams. Does it start here?
Yeah, I think it's going to start here. I think they're going to win this one quite convincingly. Yeah, I think it's, and I can't see them dropping too many more points for the rest of the season. Yeah, I just think they're going to get into that gear. They've also got De Bruyne back now, which is massive. And you look at their fixtures for the rest of the season. Like, what have they really got to play? The Aston Villa at home, Brighton away, Fulham away.
Got
like they're the games.
Palace in there.
Yeah, I mean, they're not really games you want to drop points. There's nothing there that makes you think they're going to slip up. I think if they had Villa away or West Ham away, maybe, but they don't. It's basically, yeah. I think they're going to win their remaining games. Will that be enough? I don't know. I think if Arsenal or Liverpool are going to win the league, they're going to have to win their remaining games. And you look at what they've got left. Like, Arsenal obviously got a away trip to Brighton. They've got a away trip to Spurs, away to Old Trafford. Liverpool as well. They've got the game at Old Trafford at the weekend. Away to West Ham. Home against Tottenham. Away to Villa. That away to Villa. You don't know what, if Villa do slip off a little bit, maybe they'll need something there to confirm Premier League football. They've definitely got the tricky. They've got the easiest fixture run in City, and I really can't see them dropping points in any of them. But there's still a chance for Villa, for Arsenal and Liverpool. They just need to show the same dominant, winning every game. It's hard, but they're still well in it. But yeah, I think City aren't going to drop another point, and that's going to make it difficult.
That will make it very, very difficult, because I agree with you. Liverpool have to win out. That's how they would win the title. They have to go and win every single game for the rest of the season. But I do think it is interesting that from a Liverpool perspective, and we'll swiftly move on to that Liverpool-Sheffield United game. But every time Liverpool have become the odds-on favourite from a statistical standpoint to go and win the Premier League this season, they've slipped up and they've gone and lost or drawn a game, and that's flipped obviously the numbers around to prevent them from being the favourites. So consistency from that perspective of when they become favourites and not being able to sustain that position as favourites from a stats perspective will be interesting to see. But surely Liverpool can't do that against Sheffield United. I mean, Sheffield United surprised many last week. I wasn't expecting them to pull off the performance they did against Fulham. Obviously, they would have been disappointed to be clawed back in a almost similar fashion to what happened to West Ham, but were fortunate enough to stay and get that point where West Ham couldn't do that. But for Sheffield United, every game is a must-win game. We know where they sit on the table, currently bottom of the Premier League table. Do you think they have a chance of staying up this season? And is this a must-win game? I mean, every game is a must-win game for them. But I mean, in the sense of, if they don't win this game, does that just rule them out? It might not mathematically, but do you think it does maybe psychologically or any other way?
For Sheffield United?
Yeah. 15 points, 29 having played.
Yeah, I don't think you can go to Anfield as a must-win game.
But I guess this is the problem with being so low in the league table. You end up getting to these tricky positions where they become must-win games.
Yeah, I think the game against Fulham was the must-win. And once they put themselves 3-1 up, they really should have seen that one out. And I think the fact they didn't is going to... Yeah, I think their race has run. At least with Burnley, you can sort of see it. They've got Wolves, Everton, Brighton, Sheffield United in a row. You can sort of see where they might be able to get out of it. With Sheffield United, the fixtures aren't great. Liverpool, Chelsea, Brentford away, Manchester United away, Newcastle away. You struggle to see it with them. Whereas Burnley, they've got Wolves, Everton, Brighton. Then they go to Sheffield United. They might have picked up, between 5 and 8 points in those games, and go to that Sheffield United game and win there and really put them into contention. I think the fixture list plays to Burnley's hands, where you don't quite write it off yet. And we've seen flashes in the last couple of weeks from Burnley. We've seen it from Sheffield United, but the fixture list just is against them. Yeah, they're not going to win at Anfield. We speak about Liverpool needing to win all their games. That's a challenge for them, but they're going to win this one. They're not going to slip up here. They're definitely going to win this one. So yeah, I think I'm going to go. I think yeah, I think I'm going to go quite convincing. I think it could be, but I think 5-1. I think with Liverpool, you just can't trust them to keep a clean sheet these days. But yeah, I think I'm going to go 5-1. I think it's going to be a massive win for Liverpool.
Well, I've got the same goal difference as you. I've got 4-0 to Liverpool. I'm not confident with them keeping the clean sheet. We saw that this weekend. But for their sake, goal difference is becoming a factor, surely. You look at what Arsenal have done so far this season in terms of getting goals. But for Liverpool, if in games like this where they are expected to win, surely that has to be I guess the win is the priority. But closely after that is getting as many goals as they possibly can to try and close that goal difference gap to Arsenal.
Yeah, I think they're going to have to definitely look to do that. Goal difference could play a big part, as you say. So yeah, this is a massive opportunity for Liverpool to put a few goals in, and try and improve that.
And obviously the balancing act of knowing there's Man United on the weekend. How much effort do you put in this game? That's, I guess, the fun of being in a title race and being involved in so many fixtures. Let's move on to a team maybe that wasn't so fortunate and would have been bitterly disappointed with their performance. Chelsea, they will be hosting the aforementioned Man United in this game. For Chelsea, Jake, I mean, you're thinking, all right, we've gone ahead in the game. It may be very, very controversial way. I don't know if that's a penalty in my book, the way I see the game, or at least like to watch the game. I don't see how that's given as a penalty, but maybe other people differ from that perspective. But you find you get the fortune of it. Teams throughout the Premier League have been, the poor refereeing and officiating in the league this season has benefited and not benefited teams throughout the season. Obviously not necessarily in equal fashion for some people, but you 1-0 up against 10 men Burnley. How are you not going and winning that game and winning it emphatically? And then for Man United, we spoke about them when we were speaking about Brentford. Poor display from Man United. After having knocked Liverpool out of the FA Cup, I would have thought this would have been a game where, that game was a springboard for Man United to then go and try and secure something from a European perspective for next season. Obviously, they sit in that 6th place, but I'm assuming they would have higher ambitions. Whether or not they were going to catch Tottenham and Aston Villa, that's another story. At least do what you need to do from your side of things, which would have been go and win as many games as you can, and then see where that leaves you at the end. They've certainly fallen at the first hurdle with that draw against Brentford in a game that they should have deservedly lost.
Yeah. Manchester United is such a weird one. You'd think they are better at Old Trafford, but yeah, this is another away game. But Chelsea, obviously, not beating 10-man Burnley is a massive issue, and we've seen it with Chelsea so many times this season. They seem to do better against the better teams. Played very well against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, and it did well at City away from home, and then obviously not to win there. It's tricky. This one should be a really good game to watch. I think there'll definitely be goals in it. I think Manchester United, they can't be any worse than they were at Brentford, and I think Chelsea. I think they'll both be up for the game. I think both of them kind of do better when the occasion's a little bit is up there. So yeah, I think there will be goals in this one. I can't confidently back either team, but. So yeah, I think I'll go 2-2. I think there'll be goals. I think it'll be a really good one to watch. I think on that Thursday night, you'd rather be watching the Chelsea Manchester United game, unless you're a Liverpool fan, obviously. But it's going to be. You might not get the same level of a bit. You might not get the same qualities you get from Liverpool, but you're going to get entertainment. I think it's going to be a really good game. So yeah, I think I'll go 2-2. I think there'll be more goals at Anfield, but I think the better, more competitive watch will be this one, and I think there'll be a lot of hilarity in it as well. I could see a couple of errors. Yeah, I think it's going to be quite interesting to watch. But yeah, I think 2-2 for me.
And depending on what the score is early on in that Liverpool game, there's reason to believe many people might switch to the Chelsea-Man United game. Or vice versa. If Sheffield United take an early lead, I'm sure Arsenal and Man City fans might switch to that Liverpool game. But as we've seen with these three teams in recent weeks, even when they are losing, they still end up going and winning those games. So maybe they won't do that. But For this one, I've gone 1-1. I do think it will be a more entertaining game than a 1-1 scoreline would assume. Both teams I don't think have too much confidence at the moment, certainly heading into this game. And from my perspective, I think Man United are going to be more motivated to go and put in a performance against Liverpool and try and stop them winning a title on the weekend. So we're going to see a far, far better performance from Man United on the weekend than we are going to see midweek on Thursday against Chelsea. And we know they're all professional football players and they apply themselves to each and every game. But we've seen in recent history, when these big teams are not playing well, they seem to gear up and pull something out for the teams that they are rivals with. And I'm certainly convinced that Man United are going to have another not so great performance against Chelsea. People are going to be predicting that Liverpool are going to wipe the floor with them, and all of a sudden a different version of Man United is going to turn up in that game against Liverpool. Whether or not Liverpool can handle that, we will see. But that is going to do it for another episode of A Tad Predictable. Before I hand it over to you for plugs, I do want to note that in Aston Villa's last 13 games away to Manchester City, the aggregate score is 41 goals Man City, 7 goals Aston Villa. So maybe Jake is onto something there with that 4-0 prediction for Manchester City. But Jake, do you have anything you want to plug, put over and promote before you wrap up?
No, you just get everything I do on my Twitter feed. It's at Jake Jackman with 2 N's. Yeah, just check that out and plug anything I do over there.
Awesome stuff. Guys, go and check out the EPL Index website. Their match previews, post-match reviews, player performances, all of the news that you guys could wish for. Of course, there's the daily podcast show. It's a 2-footer podcast with Dave Hendrick, where he discusses the hottest topics in football throughout the week. Finally, go and check out Flagship Show that runs weekly. It's the EPL Roundtable, where Kev DeVries sits down with panelists from respective EPL teams. They do the reviewing, and we obviously do the previewing of the happenings around the EPL. Go and follow this show on the Twitter page at A Tad Predictable on the aforementioned Twitter. Follow at EPL Index on that same platform. Subscribe to EPL Index podcast channel on your podcast providers. Give us 5 stars, write positive comments. That stuff really goes a long way and really helps us out. I've been Teddy Ochanakira. You can find me on my Twitter handle at Tad Predicts. Huge thank you to Obi Semenya. He's at John Empire SA, and Jody, she's at Spursy141 for our guest intros. Our producer behind the glass, current leader of Bank It or Burn It, Mr. Guy Drinkle. He's at Guy Drinkle on Twitter. He's been Jake Jackman. That's at Jake Jackman with 2 N's on Twitter. And remember, Chisinga Perry, Chinosho.
Sports Social Podcast Network.